My mother would have known that she'd been deceived. She was failed not just by a rogue reporter, but by leaders at the BBC who looked the other way rather than asking the tough questions.
It began quietly, with a tension that even palace walls couldn't contain. Behind closed doors, William and Kate weighed the consequences, revisiting years of strained loyalties, private confrontations, and moments they hoped would never resurface. Advisors urged caution, yet the couple knew this decision could no longer wait. And when their announcement finally emerged, it carried a weight far heavier than anyone expected. This wasn't just another royal update, it was a turning point. But what did William and Kate reveal that makes Meghan's situation far worse than imagined? The day the palace drew a line, when Prince William finally stepped forward, it was not just another royal address, it sounded like the slam of a door that had been left open far too long. The moment carried a weight the British public had not seen in decades. For the first time in modern royal life, the future king publicly severed ties with a family member who still held royal titles. But what truly shook the nation was not merely the decision itself, it was how he delivered it. William's voice was calm, measured, and chillingly composed. Every word was deliberate. There were no whispered leaks, no staged briefings, no friendly reporters delivering pre-approved lines. This was pure authority, unfiltered and unmistakable. Behind it stood a palace that had quietly but decisively shifted power. Weeks before this historic declaration, King Charles had quietly handed full control of crisis communication to William and Catherine. Insiders describe this as the true start of a new royal era, with the monarch facing health challenges and confidence in the palace's traditional media strategies steadily eroding. This shift was not cosmetic, it was survival. The monarchy could no longer risk reacting clumsily, appearing divided, or allowing external narratives to dictate the story. The system had to change, or the institution would continue to bleed credibility. Just 2 nights before William's announcement, another pivotal move occurred behind closed doors at Clarence House. King Charles signed a confidential order, later dubbed the Autumn Mandate. It granted Catherine, Princess of Wales, full authority to manage the fallout from Meghan Markle's renewed mentions in Epstein-related discussions, leaked letters, and the escalating hostility from American media outlets. Simultaneously, William was assigned a singular, unmistakable role. He would speak for the monarchy in moments demanding clarity, authority, and finality. In essence, Catherine would be the guardian of narrative control, and William its voice. So when that cold October morning arrived, William did not hesitate. Within hours of his statement, Meghan's media operation in California erupted. Accusations of favoritism toward Catherine, emotional pressure, royal cruelty, and alleged betrayal by King Charles flooded social platforms and opinion columns. For 5 years, William had stayed silent, refusing to answer claim with claim. But this time, the balance had shifted. Standing in the palace's picture gallery before a select group of reporters, William spoke with a precision that left listeners stunned. He declared unequivocally that no royal had bullied Meghan, that Catherine had never been favored at her expense, and that the turmoil was the result of Meghan's own choices and repeated efforts to damage the institution. Then came the revelation that stunned even seasoned palace correspondents. William disclosed that evidence had been gathered showing deliberate media manipulation, including paid placements designed to damage Catherine's reputation. These were not accidental misunderstandings, he said. They were intentional. Journalists would later confirm he was referencing a series of PR-backed articles from late 2024, which insinuated Catherine's popularity had been wielded as influence and that King Charles felt threatened by Meghan's rising global profile. Quietly, some of these outlets removed the stories, But the final disclosure struck the deepest chord. William revealed that Meghan had secretly collaborated with Sarah Ferguson. Fergie, leveraging her long-standing grievances with the monarchy, had allegedly been enlisted as a channel of pressure aimed not at the institution itself, but at Catherine personally, during the most challenging period of Catherine's cancer recovery in 2024. Inside the palace, the reaction shifted. Shock gave way to cold, resolute clarity. It became painfully obvious that boundaries had been crossed, lines that could never be restored. And in that quiet understanding,
it's so weird when they get bigger to think that they were that tiny.
every insider knew one undeniable truth: whatever unfolded next would reshape the monarchy in ways the public could scarcely imagine. The days that followed were not simply about public statements or media backlash. They marked the moment. A new chapter in royal history had begun, one defined by authority, precision, and an unflinching commitment to protecting the institution, the family, and the future of the crown itself. So what did Fergie really promise Meghan behind palace doors that made William draw a line impossible to erase forever? Stay with us. When the air ended the silence. As Prince William continued his address, his words grew firmer, cutting through the tension like a blade. He made it clear that any effort to fracture the family from within would no longer be tolerated. Attempts to turn one member against another, especially those seen as emotionally vulnerable, were described as unacceptable. Behind the scenes, one aide would later explain that Sarah Ferguson had been in a fragile state at the time and more open to influence than usual. Still, William's point was razor sharp. Meghan Markle, he suggested, was not merely criticizing the monarchy from a distance. She was forming connections, building pressure, and using those relationships to her advantage. Then came a moment no one in the room had prepared for. William spoke a name that instantly changed the mood: Prince Andrew. His voice held no emotion, only resolve. Transparency, he said, was not a choice, it was a requirement. The same standard the palace had applied to the Duke of York would now apply to Meghan as well. For the future king to mention Meghan in the same breath as the most disgraced senior royal in modern history was not an accident. It was a message. No one, regardless of title or relationship, would be shielded from accountability. Gasps reportedly rippled through the room, but William was not finished. When the subject turned to his brother, his tone shifted from firm to final. He stated that he would no longer answer questions about the Duke of Sussex and would not acknowledge media stories or commentary coming from Hollywood. Any further communication, he said, would take place privately, not through cameras, interviews, or headlines. He had reached the end of defense, the end of explanations, the end of waiting. Then came the sentence that confirmed what many feared. The bond between the brothers had fractured beyond repair. The crown, William explained, could not be pulled into every storm created beyond palace walls. It was a pointed reference to the live interviews, the public accusations, and the glossy productions that had turned private family conflict into worldwide entertainment.
Hello. Thank you all so much.
Thank you very much.
God bless.
In a rare and unexpected shift, William spoke directly about Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet. His words softened, but only slightly. The children, he said, were innocent. They deserved peace. They deserved dignity. They deserved a childhood untouched by public warfare. And if protecting them ever required action, the institution would not hesitate. Palace officials were quick to clarify this was not a threat regarding custody. It was a warning. The children would not become tools in a media campaign. Privately, those close to William said the moment had come from pain, not anger. He was said to be deeply troubled for his niece and nephew, growing up surrounded by cameras, noise, and conflict they never asked for. Within hours, the reaction was explosive. Across the United Kingdom, Stand with William surged to the top of trending lists. In the United States, talk shows lit up with fury and debate. Polls showed 72% of the British public supported William's position. Support for Harry and Meghan fell to just 18%, its lowest level since 2020. Inside Buckingham Palace, there were no celebrations, no relief, only focus, because this moment had not been rushed. 2 weeks before the explosive public statement, Prince William convened a private meeting with 8 of the palace's most trusted advisors inside the historic walls of Windsor Castle. The atmosphere was tense, the stakes higher than ever, as whispers of leak, media manipulation, and mounting public scrutiny weighed heavily on the room. It was there, behind locked doors and away from prying eyes, that William delivered the sentence that would alter the course of the monarchy. They could no longer remain passive in the face of what he called deliberate sabotage. From that moment, a meticulous plan took shape, every move calculated, every word measured, every decision strategically aligned to protect the crown, the family, and the institution's future. Now, what did William truly discover behind closed doors at Windsor that forced him to act, and how far will the royal fallout reach next? Stay tuned. The leak that forced the crown's hand inside the palace, officials would later describe it as the most severe internal response since the abdication crisis of 1936. For the first time in generations, the Royal Communications Unit was forced to activate what insiders called a full separation protocol against a living member of the House of Windsor. The trigger was not a single interview or surprise appearance. It was something far more dangerous. In late September 2025, a cache of private messages, allegedly written by Meghan Markle between 2021 and early 2023, began circulating behind palace walls. Within hours, they were everywhere. According to officials who reviewed them, the messages went far beyond frustration or sadness. They included accusations that King Charles had been emotionally distant during Meghan's pregnancies, and claims that he had intentionally promoted Catherine while allowing Meghan to fade into the background. One message reportedly carried a warning no one could ignore, that if Charles would not defend her, then the story would do it instead. The palace moved fast. Within 24 hours of the leak, emergency meetings were held among senior staff. Leading those talks was Lady Fiona Walsingham, Deputy Head of Sovereign Affairs. Lawyers were brought in, so were former MI5 risk specialists. Their judgment was direct and unsettling. Meghan was no longer viewed as simply a dissatisfied duchess. She was now considered a strategic communication threat to the crown. Just days later, on October 9, 2025, King Charles took a step that would reshape the monarchy's future. Already struggling with health concerns and falling approval ratings following Prince Andrew's housing scandal, he issued a sealed document known internally as Memo 2005. It transferred full control of all crisis messaging to the Prince and Princess of Wales. The shift was immediate and absolute. From that moment, William became the only royal permitted to address anything involving the Sussexes. Catherine assumed responsibility for managing how the family would be represented to the public, setting strategy and steering the royal image forward.
And the work of the Centre for Early Childhood stems from one essential truth.
One insider called it Charles's last chance at a reset, a signal that the palace was done reacting and ready to command its own narrative. A former head of communications summarized it quietly. This was not damage control. It was a redraw of the monarchy itself. Behind closed doors, William had endured years of media pressure aimed at his family without responding. But sources say the breaking point was not another headline. It was his brother. After repeated public attack, accusing the institution of racism, cruelty, and emotional neglect, Harry remained silent. Privately, he supported Meghan's claims. That silence, insiders say, hurt William more than any article ever could. In early October, William sent his brother a final message. He reminded him of the truth they had lived together. He insisted Catherine had never acted with unkindness. Then he asked the question that would end everything. Why stay silent? Harry's response, an aide later revealed, was stark. Telling the truth, he said, would cost him everything. To William, that was the moment trust collapsed. From then on, patience turned into confrontation, and beneath all of it were two children standing at the center of a war they never chose. During his public address, William made one thing unmistakably clear. The Crown would never strip Archie and Lilibet of their rights, their dignity, or their future. As the storm gathered outside, whispers circulated among palace insiders that the conflict had grown far beyond public perception. It was no longer merely about image or reputation.
Chatty, and they would always ask actually unusual questions often.
It had become a struggle for control, influence, and the very direction of the monarchy. Behind closed doors, a far larger, decisive plan was quietly unfolding. But what did William truly see behind Meghan and Harry's stormy public moves? And could it change the monarchy forever? Stay glued. When the silence shattered from across the Atlantic. For the first time in decades, the monarchy did not retreat into careful quiet. Instead, it carved its position into public stone, and just 72 hours after Prince William's announcement sent shockwaves through Britain, another wave crashed in, this one from thousands of miles away, not from Windsor Castle, but from the sunlit hills of Montecito, California. At exactly 8:01 a.m. Pacific Time, counteroffensive began. Across Los Angeles and New York, headlines broke in lockstep. Entertainment desks were flooded with exclusive briefings. Anonymous sources appeared on cue. Calls from Meghan Markle's public relations team lit up phones at Netflix, Spotify, and major Hollywood trade outlets. The messaging was synchronized to the minute. Meghan breaks her silence after royal fallout. Yet Meghan herself did not step into the spotlight. Not yet. This was a controlled opening move, a soft launch meant to steer the story without exposing her directly. Behind the scenes, several agencies confirmed that her team had rehearsed this moment for months. What rolled out next followed a familiar formula in celebrity crisis management. Shift blame, reshape the story, and build a future in front of the storm. Phase 1 focused on hardship and endurance. Carefully chosen talking points described a woman who felt rejected from the moment she entered royal life, who endured emotional strain, especially during her second pregnancy, while her mental health, insiders claimed, went unheard and her ideas dismissed. Phase 2 pushed reinvention. Reports highlighted wellness investments, a children's book, and a possible series framed around breaking cycles of family trauma. The message, repeated almost word for word across outlets, was unmistakable. She did not need the crown. She was building something beyond it. Then came Phase 3, the children. A quote attributed to a close friend in Variety cut straight to the heart. All Meghan wanted, the source said, was to raise her children in peace. And when the institution struck, her instinct was simply that of a mother protecting her own. 36 hours later, Kensington Palace answered, and it did not sound like a palace backing away. In a rare, unvarnished statement, officials rejected the idea that calculated moves could be repackaged as victimhood.
It happened a few weeks ago, earlier this month, here at our cottage.
The palace said it would not engage further with material promoted for profit. The words were sharp, but what followed was colder. Prince William, according to insiders, then instructed legal counsel to prepare action. A confidential royal document, referred to internally as an order, was sent to the Privy Council. The requests were sweeping. Remove the Sussex titles, advise British embassies worldwide not to recognize Meghan or Harry as working royals, and suspend royal privileges tied to property, ceremony, and protocol. This was no expression of hurt. It was a constitutional exit strategy. Beyond palace gates, reaction fractured. Some in Hollywood grew wary. Senior executives admitted in private that audiences were tiring of the saga. One dealmaker who had negotiated directly with Meghan's representatives in 2023 was blunt, shouting, "May grab attention, but it dissolves trust." Others were cutting in their comparison: global institution versus global platforms, history versus hashtags. Yet doors did not all close. A major New York publisher sped up plans for Meghan's memoir. A podcast company reopened talks on a limited series promising her version of royal life. The business of telling the story was still very much alive. In London, King Charles and Princess Catherine said nothing at all. Their silence was not uncertainty, it was design. Palace sources confirmed William had the king's authority to speak for the crown on every matter concerning the Sussexes. And as the media war escalated across oceans, one thing became clear. This was no longer a family disagreement. It was a standoff between throne and spotlight, and neither side seemed ready to blink. And now, with the throne silent and the spotlight raging, who truly holds power, and what will happen next in this royal showdown? Keep watching. The return that changed everything. While the media battle raged across the Atlantic, a very different message was unfolding in Britain, one delivered without shouting, leaks, or dramatic headlines. Princess Catherine quietly returned to public duty just 3 days after Meghan's Hollywood media blitz, choosing not a red carpet or a gala, but a pediatric cancer center in Oxford. Her arrival was calm, but unmistakable. Nurses paused, parents looked up, children stared with wide, curious eyes. Catherine moved through the ward gently, speaking softly, listening closely, and holding small hands with steady warmth.
The love we feel in our earliest years fundamentally shapes who we become.
Then there was the detail the cameras could not ignore. Pinned to her outfit was a small brooch shaped like an anchor. Not flashy, not accidental. Royal fashion observers immediately called it intentional, a symbol of stability in the middle of chaos, message without words. During the visit, a child looked up at her and asked a question that cut through every headline and accusation swirling outside those walls. "Are you okay?" Catherine smiled and answered simply, "I'm very well, thank you. We all have to be strong sometimes, don't we?" Those 7 words traveled fast, spreading across Britain as something more than reassurance. Many saw them as a gentle but firm reply to the story being told overseas. Not despair, not weakness, but calm strength. Yet the sharpest signal from the palace during those days was not aimed at Meghan. It was aimed at Prince Harry. In a private briefing later leaked to The Times, one senior advisor summarized Prince William's position in stark terms.
I want to say a few words about my father and why I believe this weekend is so important.
The family could accept grief and disagreement, but betrayal was something else entirely. Then came William's closed-door message to staff, reported almost word for word. Harry was still his brother, but his name could no longer be used to damage the crown. Insiders say this was not empty talk. According to sources within the palace, Harry now faces his final warning. If he continues following the same media strategy alongside Meghan, he risks losing more than public favor, official recognition, royal roles, ceremonial privileges, and perhaps most painful of all, any future place in the family's long-term legacy. One aide put it bluntly: he must choose between the drama and the dynasty, as William delivered one of the strongest family breaks in modern royal memory. Attention naturally turned to the woman standing beside him.
A campaign supported by so many wonderful partners.
Catherine was no longer simply a supportive presence. In quiet moments and public appearances alike, she had stepped into a role once held by Queen Elizabeth, a center of moral weight, calm authority, and emotional steadiness. And she did it without speeches. Her first major appearance after William's declaration came at the St. Bartholomew's Foundation Gala. She arrived quietly, dressed in a simple cream gown, without a tiara and without spectacle. The only symbol she wore was a single white poppy: peace, memory, restraint. A royal correspondent later wrote that the room seemed to cool the moment she entered, not from distance but from clarity. Behind the scenes, the last 6 months had not been kind to Catherine. She had balanced raising 3 children, supporting King Charles through treatment, and carrying a royal schedule that many sources described as nearly doubled. Yet when asked privately about Meghan's accusations of favoritism and cruelty,
as you'll likely hear many times this week, look, as we just heard, you'll hear all sorts of things.
her answer stunned even the longest-serving aides. She said she forgave Meghan, but refused to accept blame for pain that was not hers. Not a denial, a boundary. Historians now say the shift inside the monarchy is impossible to ignore. While Charles remains king in title, Catherine has become something else entirely, a figure of trust, emotional gravity, and quiet leadership. According to polls conducted by The Times and YouGov, over 76% of the British public now view her as the most trusted member of the royal family, above every other living royal figure. And as the cameras follow her steady steps forward, many inside the palace are asking the same question in silence. If Catherine is already carrying the weight, how much longer before the world admits she is also carrying the crown? And now, with Catherine quietly commanding trust and authority, could she already be the true power behind the throne? What do you think? The moment, the air, cut the cord. Inside a closed room at Kensington Palace, Prince William did not raise his voice. He did not need to. Those present later said the silence before he spoke felt heavier than any argument. Then he delivered the sentence that ended years of uncertainty. From that day forward, the royal family would permanently sever all official ties with Meghan Markle. There would be no replies, no recognition, no acknowledgement of statements issued in the name of royalty by her or anyone acting for her. The line was not symbolic, it was final. For the first time, that boundary did not stop with Meghan. It reached his own brother. Behind William's decision was not a single incident, but a long record of strain that had quietly hardened into something unfixable. The relationship that once included shared jokes, charity tours, rugby matches, and wedding speeches had been replaced by silence and suspicion. While William had endured criticism without a response for years, palace insiders say he had been watching closely as the Sussex image changed, from wounded outsiders into a brand that pushed harder, louder, and closer to the institution itself. The breaking point came with a series of leaked planning documents and internal accounts pointing to a proposed Netflix project. According to those briefed on it, the idea focused on royal motherhood and was designed to draw pointed comparisons between Meghan and Catherine, raising claims of favoritism, neglect, and deep institutional bias. What angered William further was Meghan's quiet partnership with Sarah Ferguson, Duchess of York, a longtime outsider to the royal inner circle. Insiders say Ferguson had acted as an informal advisor, using unresolved grievances to sharpen attacks aimed at Catherine. William later described it in private as something far more serious than publicity. To him, it looked like a campaign. Then came a moment even close aides did not see coming. During a Hollywood appearance, Harry openly criticized the monarchy and mentioned William directly. Palace sources say the content was viewed as a major breach of trust, especially because William believed it distorted private realities and reduced complex family matters into simplified public accusations. Instead of responding emotionally, William withdrew with precision. He told staff he grieved his brother's decisions, but would no longer trail behind him repairing damage created elsewhere. The most startling moment of the briefing came when the discussion turned to Archie and Lilibet.
Or Douglas, the founder of My Algae and an Earthshot Prize finalist last year.
William spoke of responsibility. not possession. If their environment ever became harmful beyond repair, the Crown, he said, would offer refuge, not as a legal claim, but as an obligation to children born into circumstances they did not choose. Advisors were stunned. The words carried no threat, but rang with moral force. William accused no one directly, yet warned against using the children to fuel public sympathy while surrounding them with constant noise and conflict. He then laid out the reasons behind his decision, citing patterns of pressure and manipulation. He referred to photos being withheld unless coverage followed a certain script. He mentioned confusion around invitations, names, and conflicting accounts that cut deeply inside the family, especially in Queen Elizabeth's final months. He also pointed to proposals in California that named the children in story concepts meant for production. Then William spoke of his mother. He reminded the room how a generation had learned what happens when children grow up under glare and distortion. He refused to watch history repeat itself. To make the standard clear, William referenced Prince Andrew's downfall. Privilege, he said, is not a shield for disgrace, whether financial, emotional, private, or public. No one exploits the crown and keeps its benefits. With that, he ordered action. Remaining honorary titles were to be suspended. The Sussex brand was barred from official royal programs. Harry's final honorary military roles were placed under review. Agencies in the United States were quietly advised to stop using the word royal in promotions without palace approval. King Charles, receiving treatment, did not speak publicly, but sources say he agreed, not in anger, in protection. And as William left the room, aides knew this was no pause in the story. It was the end of one chapter and the beginning of something the monarchy could no longer postpone. So, what do you think really broke the royal bond? Power, betrayal, or a secret still buried inside the palace walls? We'd love your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.